All right, like I said, you know what's going on. You know what time it is. It's two-wheel burnout time. Which, yes, I am putting that 8.8 in, finally replacing the open R180. I have everything pretty much unbolted, ready to drop. I've made some references. So this tape, the front edge of this tape is the front edge of this mounting surface, because if I do something custom, I want to keep all this shit aligned. So that's the front edge of that, and this tape is the center line of the axle. I've done that on both sides. You should probably do the same if you're trying to do some custom ass shit, because you don't want to change around all your measurements. So that's what I got there. Probably want to get everything out of the way. I'll connect these two lines all the way across the middle so I can center the new diff easier. Let me show you what I got so far going on. So my buddy hooked me up. As you can see, this is what I plan to use as the bracket. Can you see it? So basically, this goes between the diff cover and the diff, and you can see it all matches with the gasket. If I line it up, it all matches up, and then I have some tabs on the edge where I can do anything I feel like I need to actually get this bolted in where the old one is. Take a look. The old one is bolted with this bar to these points on each side. So I'm gonna have those tabs coming off the diff, and then I'll probably reuse this and chop this bar off and angle it, bend it, whatever way I need to for it to line up in these holes is what I'm thinking, and weld that up together. To get this rear end off, I'm dropping the entire rear subframe section. So unhook the brakes, parking brakes. I didn't unhook the drive shaft flange because, you know, it's a slip yoke at the front, so it's just gonna slide out up there. When I pull the diff, I can slide out the drive shaft. There's two bolts here. You can see one on each side, and then the same deal on the other side. And if you can see, it's the same for the front. There's two bolts, one there, one there. They hold these little cup things on. So you get those four off, and then you take off these two. There's two bolts in the front of the diff, which I have this breaker bar on, which bolts to this thing called a mustache bar, and then you take this off. So I'm gonna unbolt that, unbolt this, slide that shaft out of the way, and then I should be able to drop it all. Drop this whole lower control arm section out with the diff. I'll have to unhook the three springs at the top, or the three bolts at the top, which hold the spring assembly on, and that should let it fall out, which you'll hopefully see here in a second. All right, there you have it. The whole dealio out of there. And nice fresh scratches in my floor. And my tape got slightly ripped up. Let's put it back there. Yeah. So yes, maybe if you don't want to mess your floor up, you can do it in sections, but I'm doing it the quick, dirty way. Also, looks like I might have to unbolt this extra top bar to get this mustache bar out. So I'll probably have to take that out too. See what I'm saying? That front bar will not let the mustache bar drop out of the way. But that's the rear end out. Here, let me give you a comparison. This is R180. This is 8.8. You see how much bigger that is? It's like boom. Like this one I can fit my hand all the way across. This one is about 1 3/4, and it looks shorter too. So it looks like I'll probably need a new drive shaft, because this one has a lot of distance from the pinion flange to the little stub axles, which is unfortunate because drive shafts are not cheap. Even getting a shortened one, like for this car, I reused the Trailblazer's aluminum. Just get it shortened was like 135 bucks. Maybe even more. I have it documented somewhere. Word of advice, document everything you do. I just have a spreadsheet with everything and the prices, so that way you can know what you're spending money on and make sure you don't get too crazy with it and start spending a lot of shit. But that's that. Next, you'll probably see me mocking the 8.8 up in here to see how it lines up. And I'll be working on linking these tabs to the old mustache bar at the proper angle and shit, and to get it centered and to get the stubs lined up where the axle should be as indicated by my tape. Okay, you can see my attempt to drain the oil in a clean fashion has failed, but what concerns me more is, see all this? This is like water. This diff was half filled with water. It probably had more water than oil in it. So I'm not sure what that means. Maybe this car probably was a flood car and submerged at some point. That's probably what that means, because I don't know any other way for water to get in the diff unless the diff was submerged for a long time, which explains why the guy's parting it out. But yeah. Okay, so the mess is real, but there she is, ladies and gentlemen. There she is. At least for now. This is all welded on. Some little reinforcements. Still got not much, but a little flex. I might put a brace behind these flat bits, but kind of ghetto looking, but very functional. I got it all measured up, lined up. What I was able to do to simplify my task is, let me get this light right here. You see that frame rail deal running horizontal tied to these pins here? I measured that, and that is perfectly level and perfectly square with the axles. So I kind of, when I was mocking it up, I used the edge of that this way to get it, the diff centered, you know, left to right along this line, which is the center of the axles. So that helped me get it centered because it was right against that. And I measured and scraped a mark, which should be middle way between that bar, to get the diff centered. And then I had these old mustache bar chopped off bits bolted up from here, and I just pressed them against there, tacked it on, took it off, welded it all up, and that's it. That'll be how she's mounted. You might notice everything else is missing. This little sucker right here, I've been using the mustache bar for steel. This guy right here, I'm going to cut this out and put a little like C-notch in it for some clearance. As you can see, I already tried to notch out a chunk, but I'm gonna do a proper and build a C-notch because the diff sits a little further forward than that goes when I have it centered up. Actually, speaking of which, you guys want to know a little secret? This right here, when you bolt it up to the diff, there's little arms here which I cut off. Let me show you. These guys right here, there'll be one on each side. they perfectly line up with this. Oh, big ass mosquito, holy shit. They perfectly line up with these holes. So if you wanted to do it the easy way, the quick dirty way, you just drill a hole in here, and you could like take these bushings, chop them off, or something of equal size to whatever bolt that is. Looks pretty damn close. You could take that and just weld the bushing to the outside here. I saw another guy do it like this, but it lines up perfectly. These ears do with this bar. It puts the diff a little bit forward from optimal, just a little bit, but not terrible. Maybe not even an inch. So it's well within the CV joints articulation range. I would highly recommend that to anybody just doing it the easy way, but I already told my buddy to cut up this mounting plate for me, so I figured might as well use it while I can, and I'll try to make it prettier. I know it looks pretty ghetto-tastic, but yeah, so that's what it's gonna be like. This is gonna, when it's in the car, it's gonna be like this, if you see what I'm saying. And that'll be next step. Once I get that C-notch made, I'll bolt the bitch back in and I'll work on the front mounts. I may or may not use the stock mounting points. I might just weld like a snubber kind of deal with a bolt hole to the top of the car, because the thing with that front of that diff is when you accelerate, it pulls the diff up like that, the front of the diff. So what you want to do is you want to limit this up and down movement. So you want to ideally have something coming straight up and down with that. So when it lifts, it's exerting the pressure on that. This diff is so short that if you use the original bolt holes, it acts like a lever. So that tries to lift, and it lifts all these tabs, and that's just putting a shit ton extra force on those bolts, and they'll eventually fail. So you need some sort of vertical dampening. So I'll see what I can do, how fancy I want to make it. These are the old mounts, which had just a plastic, rubber, vinyl, I don't know, strap on them. But yes, those are not going to be used. I'll think of something else. And that's what you'll be seeing next, is me bolting that bitch back in here, and then I'll be figuring out a front mount configuration. All right, been a couple days, have some progress made, finally have the mounts done. I'll show you guys what we have figured out for them. Let's go under into the belly. All right, so lights. Let's see. Front mount, I'll take this all out for you to see later, but as you can see, it's like it goes across the tunnel and it goes like that. I have to add a little notch for the flange, make sure it doesn't hit. And then I just have a plate welded on top, and I have a, if we can get in there, a little bolt, which the stock bushings mount to. Then you can see my weird contraption of a mustache bar. So I used the stock ends, and I chopped them off. I need to reinforce a little more. I didn't get to weld from the underneath, and you see some blobs where I tried to tack it. But it's got this, that's my metal bar I showed before, which goes into the cover, as you can see, and all the way across into my other butchered mustache bar mount. And it's all level. I've kind of eyeballed this angle for now, but I can make it slightly higher by pushing the mount up a little higher, and I can always add a shit ton of shims here to angle it lower. So that shouldn't be a problem. But the next step now will be to take these out, dress them up a little nicer, paint them or powder coat them, reinforce this a little more, and then I'll start getting at the outers, the difficult part where the axles will go to the hubs. And my idea is I'm hoping that once I pull these stub axles out, this the diameter of wherever they slide into now with those bearings is hopefully bigger or the same size as the I guess bearing and hub assembly, which the Explorer naturally did on the rear, which presses in. So if I can get that shit to press in there, that'll be awesome. Otherwise, I'll have to kind of butcher it up, chop these tabs off, take this center section out and find a pipe just the right diameter, weld that shit in there, and then press the bearing in, which will be considerably more work. But that's my plan, so I'll just keep this whole joint, knuckle all that shit in, and just somehow hook up a tube that's the correct diameter as the original Ford Explorer's rear end's bearing hub assembly, and press that bitch in, and then the CVs will spline up correctly because that'll be the same rear bearing, and then I'll just need a shorter shaft cut, and then I'll have the same inners outer. Should be hopefully not very expensive. Excuse me, it's the sunlight, burns my eyes. But yeah, that'll be the next step. You'll probably see me taking that shit apart, but as you can see, for now, the diff is hanging on its own in the darkness. So that's quite nice. And you see it's lined up pretty good right where it needs to be. Oh yeah, I forgot to show you, this is the rear brace where the uprights is. Or I guess these are uprights, I don't know what these are called, but these go there. You get what I'm saying? I had to cut out the original and weld this pipe in for the extra clearance because it sits back further. And that's all I did. A little tab, welded at each of the corners, run a bar across, same on the other side, little tabs. And it seems pretty hefty, pretty strong, so probably stronger than the stock one. We got everything nice and organized in here. Okay, you know, this is where you put the random, you know, impact wrenches. You got suspension pieces over here, weed whackers and lawn care over there, and other things. But anyway, I have some tasty, delicious bits of information for you guys. I've been fucking around, taking shit apart, doing measurements, scientific things with rulers. But anyway, in case you're wondering, I have it's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna be easy to make them stock Ford axles mate into the stock Datsun suspension arm dealio. This is a rear Ford Explorer wheel bearing, the one which that 8.8 come out of. As you can see, it's definitely bigger than this, where this stub axle used to go. So I'm gonna have to do some special shit to get this to work. Basically, what I've decided to do is take like a plasma cutter or something, cut a circle around this old flange so it pops out. If you look at the height, these are about the same height. And I'll get a piece of steel pipe this diameter. Probably have to go to a machine shop, have them lathe it out to the exact, I guess, inside diameter to press this bearing into. And then what I'm gonna do is basically weld that piece of pipe flat to here, replacing this piece of pipe with one which this bearing will press into. And on the back side, this will all disappear. So I'll have this nice, perfect flat flange to weld the pipe to. And from there I can build off my brake caliper mounts and shit. And that way I don't have to worry about geometry. Everything will be fine, perfect, all right and dandy. So that's my plan. I talked to a machine shop and they're letting me know if they can do that and the price. So I imagine they can. And I hope to God it's not expensive as shit, because that's an easy ass job, just cut a piece of pipe in half. But my original plan was to use these guys. What I've encountered is the wheel bearing. First off, this one's all noisy, so I don't think it was a good one on the car. But everything's different on the axles. The CB, these are from the fronts of the Explorer. So, for instance, I picked up one to do some tests. This is it. The length is about right. That's what I was hoping for, since it's a lot shorter, as you can see. But these splines much smaller than this. Axle shaft much smaller than this. And these whatever tripod joint deals are smaller on this one, as is the stub axle smaller. So I took it apart as deep as I could go to see if I could anywhere have a possibility of mixing and matching the two together, but no, it doesn't work. So I'll have to get these shortened by someone and have them cut that down.